Millionaire cries when he sees a poor girl asking for his leftovers. So he does the unbelievable. Before we dive into the story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. Marcus Blackstone adjusted his platinum cufflinks as he reviewed quarterly projections on his tablet. The Meridian Club's crystal chandeliers cast elegant shadows across mahogany tables, where Seattle's elite conducted business over wine that cost more than most people's monthly salary. At 42, Marcus commanded respect through calculated precision. Every decision measured, every risk analyzed. His empire, Blackstone Industries, had been built on this methodical approach to success. The waiter glided over with the evening's special when a small figure appeared beside their table. A little girl, no more than 7, stood clutching a bundle against her chest. Her clothes were dirty, her blonde hair matted, but her blue eyes held a determination that struck Marcus immediately. "Excuse me, sir," she said with surprising politeness. "Could I please have your leftover food?" The entire table fell silent. Marcus's dinner companions shifted uncomfortably, clearly expecting him to summon security. But something in the child's desperate courage made him pause. "I'm sorry. What did you say?" Marcus asked gently. The girl's grip tightened on her bundle, and Marcus realized with shock that she was holding a baby. The infant appeared malnourished, its tiny face gaunt and pale. "We haven't eaten in 2 days," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Could you please share?" Marcus felt something twist in his chest. "Where are your parents, sweetheart?" The girl's eyes filled with tears, but her voice remained steady. "Our mama traded us for drugs 3 days ago. She said we were too much trouble." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Memories he'd buried for decades suddenly surged forward. Himself at 8 years old, standing in a similar situation, abandoned by a mother who chose addiction over her son. Marcus stood abruptly, his chair scraping against marble. "What's your name?" "Sophia," she replied. "And this is my baby brother Noah." Without hesitation, Marcus signaled the waiter. "Pack everything on this table to go. Now." He turned to his stunned colleagues. "Gentlemen, we'll reschedule." As he guided Sophia toward the exit, Marcus Blackstone, the man who controlled boardrooms with a glance, felt his carefully ordered world begin to crumble, and for the first time in decades, he was grateful for the chaos. Marcus's Bentley cut through Seattle's evening traffic as Sophia cradled Noah in the back seat. The baby's breathing was shallow, each tiny exhale sending panic through Marcus's chest. "How long has he been like this?" Marcus asked, glancing in the rearview mirror. "He stopped crying yesterday," Sophia replied matter-of-factly. "I thought that was good, but his skin feels cold." Marcus pressed harder on the accelerator. At Seattle Children's Hospital, he burst through the emergency doors carrying Noah while Sophia gripped his jacket. The medical team responded instantly, whisking the baby away as nurses fired questions at Marcus. "I'm not the father," he said helplessly. "I just found them." A social worker appeared, Ms. Rodriguez, according to her badge. "Sir, we'll need to contact Child Protective Services immediately." Marcus watched through the glass as doctors worked on Noah. Sophia pressed her face against the window, her small hands leaving prints on the surface. She hadn't left her brother's side in 3 days, and now strangers were taking him away. "Is he going to die?" Sophia whispered. Marcus knelt beside her, his voice catching. "No, sweetheart. They're helping him." But watching her terror transported Marcus back 34 years. He remembered standing in a similar hospital hallway, abandoned, and alone social workers discussing his placement as if he were cargo to be shipped. He remembered the cold institutional smell, the clipboard conversations about his future, the way adults talked around him instead of to him. "Sophia," he said gently, "I won't let anyone separate you from Noah. I promise." She turned to him, those blue eyes searching his face for truth. "Everyone leaves," she said simply. The words shattered something inside Marcus's chest. He saw himself reflected in this fierce little girl who'd been forced to grow up too fast, who'd shouldered impossible responsibilities, who'd learned not to trust promises. "I'm not everyone," he replied, A doctor emerged with cautiously optimistic news. The baby is severely malnourished and dehydrated, but we caught it in time. He'll need several days of IV nutrition and monitoring. Sophia's legs gave out with relief. Marcus caught her before she hit the floor, surprised by how light she felt. When was the last time someone had fed this child properly? As they sat in the waiting room, Sophia finally spoke. "You smell like my grandpa used to, before Mama got sick." Marcus looked down at this extraordinary little girl who'd protected her, baby brother with nothing but courage and love. In that moment, he made a decision that would change everything. He was taking them home. Absolutely not. Marcus's attorney, Patricia Wells, stood in the hospital corridor, her voice sharp with disbelief. "You cannot take home a child you found on the street. There are procedures, background checks, legal protocols. Then expedite them." Marcus cut her off, watching Sophia through the window. She sat beside Noah's incubator, her small hand pressed against the glass. Ms. Rodriguez approached with a clipboard. "Mr. Blackstone, while we appreciate your concern, Sophia will need to be placed in emergency foster care tonight. We have a family." "No." The word came out harder than Marcus intended. "She stays with me." "Sir, you're not related to these children. You have no legal standing." Marcus turned, his voice dropping to the tone that had intimidated CEOs across 3 continents. "Find a way. I'll have a team of lawyers here within the hour to handle whatever paperwork you need." Patricia grabbed his arm. "Marcus, think about this rationally. You know nothing about children. Your lifestyle, your schedule, can be changed." Marcus pulled free, surprised by his own certainty. An hour later, after emergency guardianship, papers and promises of follow-up visits, Marcus led Sophia to his car. She clutched a small bag containing Noah's few belongings, a worn blanket and a stuffed rabbit missing one ear. "Where do you live?" she asked as they entered his building's marble lobby. "The top floors," Marcus replied, pressing the penthouse button. Sophia's eyes widened as the elevator climbed. When the doors opened directly into his foyer, she stepped out cautiously. The space was a monument to success. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, abstract art worth more than most homes. "This is where you live?" she whispered. Marcus saw his home through her eyes. Beautiful but sterile, impressive but cold. There were no family photos, no personal touches, nothing that suggested a life beyond work. "It's very quiet," Sophia observed, her voice small in the vast space. Marcus realized she was right. His penthouse was a sanctuary of silence, designed for a man who lived alone and preferred it that way. But children needed warmth, laughter, life. "Are you hungry?" he asked, leading her to the kitchen. Sophia nodded but remained by the doorway, as if ready to run. Marcus opened his refrigerator. Expensive wine, takeout containers, nothing a child could eat. "I don't know what you like," he admitted. For the first time, Sophia almost smiled. "Anything that's not garbage food." The simple statement hit him like a sledgehammer. While he'd been dining on $100 steaks, this child had been eating scraps. As they waited for food delivery, Sophia explored the living room, touching nothing. She stopped before a window overlooking the city lights. "It's like a castle in the sky," she murmured. Marcus joined her, seeing the view differently. "Tomorrow will make it more like home." Sophia looked up at him, hope and fear warring in her eyes. "You really won't send me away?" The question broke his heart. "Never," he promised. That night, Marcus stood in his guest room doorway watching Sophia sleep in a bed that dwarfed her tiny frame. She'd insisted on keeping Noah's blanket close, a lifeline to her brother. Marcus Blackstone had just made the most impulsive decision of his calculated life, and he had absolutely no idea what came next. Marcus's alarm shrieked at 5:30 a.m., the same time it had for 15 years. His routine was sacred. Coffee, financial reports, gym, then office by 7. But today, a small voice from the kitchen shattered his precision. "I can't reach the cups." Sophia. stood on her tiptoes beside his granite counter, still wearing yesterday's clothes. She'd been awake for who knows how long, too polite or too scared to wake him. "You're up early," Marcus said, lifting her to reach the cabinet. "I always get up early. Noah needs—" Her voice caught. "I forgot Noah isn't here." Marcus felt the weight of her loss, this child's entire world reduced to protecting her baby brother. "We'll visit him after breakfast." Elena, his housekeeper, arrived at her usual 8 o'clock to find chaos. Marcus sat at his dining table, which he'd never actually used, attempting to cut Sophia's toast into perfect squares while balancing his phone between his ear and shoulder. "No, Peterson. The Tokyo merger cannot wait. Move the call to Sophia, careful with the juice, to 9:30. Elena watched with barely concealed amusement as Seattle's most organized CEO fumbled with a child's breakfast. "Mr. Blackstone," Elena said gently. "Perhaps I could help?" Sophia looked between them, warily. Marcus realized she was calculating whether Elena represented another threat, another person who might separate her from those she loved. "Elena has worked with me for 5 years," Marcus told Sophia. "She's family." The word surprised him. He'd never thought of his staff as family before. Later, while Marcus attempted a video conference, Sophia explored his office. She moved like a small ghost, touching nothing, disturbing nothing. But Marcus noticed her drawings, images that made his chest tighten. One showed a woman walking away from 2 small figures. Another depicted children hiding under a bridge. The most disturbing showed a tiny girl carrying an even tinier baby through dark streets. "Sophia," he said after his call ended, "these pictures, did this really happen?" She nodded matter-of-factly. "After Mama left, we lived in the park for 2 days. Then the shelter until they said we had to leave." "How did you feed Noah?" "I asked nice people for food, or sometimes—" She hesitated. "I took things from stores when no one was looking." Marcus stared at this 7-year-old who'd become a mother, provider, and protector out of necessity. While he'd been closing million-dollar deals, she'd been fighting for survival with nothing but courage. "You did what you had to do," he said softly. "You kept Noah safe." Sophia's shoulders relaxed slightly. For the first time, someone understood that her stealing hadn't been wrong, it had been survival. That evening, as Marcus tucked her into bed, Sophia finally asked the question he'd been dreading. "When will you get tired of us?" The innocent query pierced his heart. This child expected abandonment because it was all she'd known. "Never," Marcus whispered. But as he returned to his office, doubts crept in. His phone showed 17 missed calls. His inbox overflowed with urgent messages. His perfectly ordered world was imploding. Yet watching Sophia's fierce love for Noah, Marcus began to understand something profound. Maybe some things were worth more than order. "He can come home today." Dr. Martinez smiled as she reviewed Noah's chart. The IV nutrition worked beautifully. "He's gained almost a pound." Sophia pressed her face against the nursery window, watching Noah sleep. For 5 days she'd refused to leave the hospital, convinced her brother would disappear if she looked away. "You hear that, sweetheart?" Marcus knelt beside her. "Noah's coming home with us." "To your castle?" Sophia asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Our home," Marcus corrected gently. While Sophia stayed with Noah, Marcus raced to transform his sterile guest room. Elena helped him assemble a crib, change tables, and enough baby supplies to stock a small store. He'd bought everything the salesperson recommended, having no idea what an infant actually needed. "Mr. Blackstone," Elena laughed, watching him, struggle with a mobile featuring dancing elephants. "Perhaps we start with the essentials." 2 hours later, Sophia walked through the door carrying Noah like precious cargo. She surveyed the nursery with wide eyes, soft yellow walls, a rocking chair by the window, shelves lined with books and toys. "Is this really for Noah?" she whispered. "For both of you," Marcus replied. That first night shattered any illusions Marcus had about parenthood. Noah woke screaming every 2 hours. Marcus stumbled through feeding attempts, diaper changes, and burping techniques with the desperation of a man defusing a bomb. At 3 a.m., exhausted and defeated, Marcus sat in the nursery holding an inconsolable Noah. Nothing worked. The baby's cries pierced the night while Marcus felt utterly helpless. Sophia appeared in the doorway wearing oversized pajamas Elena had bought her. "You're holding him wrong," she said matter-of-factly. Marcus looked up, too tired to feel offended. "Can you show me?" Sophia climbed onto his lap, her small hands guiding his arms into the correct position. "Like this. Now rock back and forth, not side to side, and hum." He likes humming. Within minutes, Noah's cries softened to whimpers. Then silence. Marcus stared in amazement as his daughter, when had he started thinking of her that way, demonstrated skills he'd never imagined a 7-year-old could possess. "How did you learn this?" he asked softly. "When Mama was sleeping a lot, Noah was always hungry. I had to figure it out." Sophia's voice held no self-pity, just simple truth. Marcus felt his throat tighten. While he'd been building his empire, this child had been raising a baby. "You did an incredible job keeping him safe, Sophia. But you don't have to do it alone anymore." For the first time since he'd met her, Sophia smiled. Really smiled. It transformed her entire face, revealing the child she should have been allowed to be. "Can I help you learn?" she asked. "I'd like that very much." As they sat together in the quiet nursery, Noah peaceful in Marcus's arms, and Sophia curled against his side, Marcus felt something shift in his chest. This wasn't obligation or charity. This was family. The thought should have terrified him. Instead, it felt like coming home. Marcus's phone buzzed insistently as he prepared Noah's morning bottle. The hospital had been discreet, but someone had talked. "Sir?" Rebecca, his executive assistant, sounded strained over the phone. "We have a problem. Channel 7 is running a story in 20 minutes. Billionaire's midnight rescue, charity or publicity stunt." Marcus's blood ran cold. "How did they? Someone leaked security footage from the hospital. They're questioning your motives, suggesting this is calculated PR to distract from the quarterly losses." Sophia looked up from her cereal, sensing the tension. "Is something wrong?" "Nothing you need to worry about," Marcus lied, stepping into his office. On his computer screen, the story was already spreading across social media. Photos of him carrying Noah through the hospital, speculation about his sudden paternal instincts, and worst of all, his business partner David Sterling providing commentary. "Marcus Blackwood has always been driven by image," David told the reporter, his expression perfectly calibrated concern. "While I admire charitable impulses, a CEO must maintain focus on fiduciary responsibilities. Our investors deserve leadership that isn't distracted by personal projects." Personal projects. Marcus's jaw clenched. David was positioning this as weakness, as compromised judgment. His phone rang immediately. Board members, investors, journalists, all demanding explanations. By noon, paparazzi had assembled outside his building's entrance. "Mr. Blackstone," Patricia called urgently. "David's called an emergency board meeting for Thursday. He's citing the stock dip and your erratic behavior as concerns requiring immediate discussion." Marcus watched Sophia playing quietly with Noah, unaware that her presence had just become ammunition against the man trying to protect her. That evening, David appeared at Marcus's door uninvited, his smile sharp as broken glass. "May I come? And we need to discuss the situation." Reluctantly, Marcus led him to the living room, keeping his voice low. Sophia was putting Noah down for the night. "This media circus needs to end," David said without preamble. "The board is spooked. Stock prices are volatile. You're jeopardizing everything we've built. These children needed help. And you helped them. Admirable. Now find them a proper home and get back to business." David's tone suggested this was reasonable advice, not an ultimatum. "They have a proper home. Here." David's mask slipped slightly. Marcus, you're a businessman, not a nursemaid. This domestic fantasy will destroy your credibility. My credibility isn't worth more than their lives. Isn't it? David leaned forward. Because without your credibility, without your company, you can't help anyone. The board meets Thursday. I suggest you demonstrate where your real priorities lie. After David left, Marcus found Sophia in Noah's doorway, holding her worn, stuffed rabbit. Will the mean man make us leave? She asked quietly. Marcus knelt beside her, his voice fierce with determination. No one will ever make you leave, I promise. But as he held her small hand, Marcus realized David had drawn the battle lines. The war for his company and his family had begun. Marcus's phone exploded with urgent calls at 6 a.m. Tuesday morning. The London merger, worth $500 million in 2 years of negotiations, was collapsing. The Rothwell Group is threatening to walk. Patricia's voice crackled through the speaker. They claim our last-minute contract changes were unacceptable, but Marcus, those changes came from David. He modified the terms yesterday without consulting you. Marcus's grip tightened on the phone. David was playing chess while Marcus had been learning to change diapers. Sir, Patricia continued, Mr. Rothwell will only meet in person. Today. If you can catch the noon flight to London. I can't travel today. Marcus watched Sophia feed Noah his morning bottle with practiced care. Marcus, this is $500 million. The board will crucify you if this falls through. From the living room, Sophia called out, Marcus, Noah's being fussy. Can you help? The two worlds, corporate titan and makeshift father, collided with devastating clarity. Marcus could salvage the merger, save his reputation, and prove to the board that David was wrong. All he had to do was abandon the children for a few days. Book the flight, Marcus heard himself say. He found Sophia on the couch, trying to calm Noah, while tears streamed down her face. He won't stop crying, and I don't know why, she sobbed. What if I'm doing something wrong? Marcus sat beside her, gently taking Noah. The baby was running a slight fever, nothing serious but enough to make him uncomfortable. He's okay, sweetheart. Just a little warm. See? He's already calming down. Sophia wiped her eyes. You always know what to do. The simple trust in her voice shattered his resolve. How could he leave when she'd finally started depending on him? Sophia, he began carefully. I might need to travel for work. Her face went white. You're leaving? Just for a day or two. That's what Mama said. Sophia's voice became small and distant. She said she'd be back in 2 days. That was 6 months ago. Marcus watched hope die in her eyes, replaced by the familiar resignation of a child who'd learned not to trust promises. I won't go, he said suddenly. But your important work, you're more important. The words surprised him with their certainty. Marcus called Patricia back. Cancel the flight. Handle the London situation remotely. Marcus, you're making a mistake. David's positioning this as proof you've lost focus. Then let him. Marcus looked at Sophia, who was cautiously hopeful again. Some things matter, more than money. By evening, news of the failed merger dominated financial headlines. David appeared on CNBC expressing deep concern about Marcus's judgment. Leadership requires difficult choices, David told the camera. When personal feelings compromise business decisions, shareholders suffer. Marcus's phone buzzed with board members demanding explanations, but watching Sophia draw a picture of their family, stick figures holding hands under a simple house, he felt only peace. He'd passed the test that truly mattered. I watch Marcus through the crack in my bedroom door as he works at his big desk. The blue light from his computer makes his face look tired, but he doesn't stop. His phone keeps buzzing, but he turned the sound off after Noah went to sleep. 3 weeks ago, I didn't know people like Marcus existed. Rich people were just faces on TV, not real. But Marcus feels real when he sits beside my bed during nightmares. His hands are warm when he helps me with Noah's bottles. I count things now. 3 weeks, 2 days, and 5 hours since he found us. I know because I mark each day on the little calendar Elena gave me. Mama used to disappear for days, then weeks. The longest was 2 months. I learned to count time so I'd know when to stop waiting. But Marcus is different. He canceled his big trip when Noah got fussy. Important men in expensive suits don't do that for kids like us. I draw pictures of our family now, me, Noah, and Marcus. In my drawings, we're always holding hands. I haven't shown Marcus yet because what if he doesn't like them? What if seeing us together on paper makes him realize we don't really belong? Elena says Marcus smiles more now. He was always serious before, she told me while we folded Noah's tiny clothes. Now he laughs when you tell stories about the park animals. I like making him laugh. His whole face changes, like sunshine breaking through clouds. Sometimes I catch him staring at old pictures on his phone. There's one of a pretty lady with blonde hair like mine. When he thinks I'm not looking, his face gets sad. I wonder if she left him too. At night, when the apartment is quiet, I listen for his footsteps. He always checks on Noah first, then stands in my doorway for a moment. I pretend to sleep, but I'm really watching through my eyelashes. He looks worried sometimes, like he's carrying invisible heavy things. The scary man, David, came again yesterday. His voice makes my stomach feel tight like when Mama's dealers visited. Marcus's voice gets different around David, harder and colder. After David left, Marcus held Noah extra long. Are we causing trouble? I asked him. You're the best kind of trouble, he said, but his eyes still looked worried. I know Marcus gave up something important for us. Elena whispers to her sister on the phone about board meetings and angry phone calls. I don't understand. Business words, but I understand sacrifice. Mama taught me that when you choose something, you lose something else. Today, Marcus taught me to make pancakes. Real ones, not the kind from powder packets. He let me crack the eggs even though I got shells in the bowl. We laughed so hard that Noah started giggling too. We're good at this, Marcus said, flipping a lopsided pancake. At cooking? I asked. At being a family. The word made my chest feel warm and scared at the same time. Family means people who don't leave, but everyone leaves eventually. Except maybe Marcus won't. Maybe this time is different. Maybe I'm finally allowed to stop counting days. The crisis erupted at 3:47 a.m. on a Thursday. Noah's fever spiked to 103 degrees, sending them racing back to the emergency room. As Marcus held his convulsing son, when had he started thinking of Noah that way? His phone buzzed with the news that would destroy everything. Emergency board meeting scheduled for 9 a.m., Rebecca's text read. David's calling for your immediate removal as CEO. Votes already secured. Dr. Martinez worked efficiently while Marcus paced the waiting room, Sophia curled in a chair beside him. The little girl who'd been laughing over pancakes just hours earlier now watched her brother fight for stability once again. It's my fault, Sophia whispered. I gave him my cold. Babies get sick, sweetheart. It's not anyone's fault. But Marcus's voice lacked conviction as his phone continued its relentless assault. Ms. Rodriguez, the social worker, arrived at dawn looking grim. Mr. Blackstone, I need to discuss some concerns that have been brought to our attention. Marcus's stomach dropped. What concerns? Anonymous reports about your frequent absences, missed meetings, declining business performance. There are questions about whether your current situation allows you to provide stable guardianship. Through the hospital window, Marcus spotted news vans assembling in the parking lot. Someone had leaked Noah's hospitalization. His phone rang, Patricia calling with legal updates that would shatter his remaining hope. Marcus, there's more. David's hired Williams and Associates to challenge the emergency guardianship. They're filing papers this morning claiming you're an unfit guardian due to neglect of fiduciary duties. The room spun around Marcus. David wasn't just coming for his company, He was coming for his children. The custody hearing is scheduled for 9 a.m., Patricia continued. Same time as the board meeting. Marcus closed his eyes. The timing wasn't coincidental. David had orchestrated this perfectly. Force Marcus to choose between saving his company or fighting for his family, ensuring he'd lose both. Sir, Ms. Rodriguez waited for his attention. I need to ask directly. Are these children interfering with your ability to fulfill your professional obligations? The question hung in the air like a loaded gun. The honest answer would doom his custody case. A lie might save it, but would betray everything he'd discovered about himself. My children are my priority, Marcus said quietly. Ms. Rodriguez made a note. The state must consider long-term stability, Mr. Blackstone. Love isn't always enough. By 8 a.m., Noah's fever had broken, but the doctor wanted him monitored for another day. Sophia refused to leave his side, terrified that he'd disappear again. Marcus stood at a crossroads that would define the rest of his life. In one direction, the boardroom where his empire awaited salvation. In the other, a courtroom where his family's future hung in the balance. His phone buzzed with a final text from David. Choose wisely, old friend. You can't save them both. For the first time since building his fortune, Marcus Blackstone faced a decision where money and power were useless. He could only choose love or legacy, but not both. Marcus stood in the hospital corridor, his phone pressed to his ear as Patricia delivered the final ultimatum. The board vote starts in 15 minutes. If you're not there, David wins by default. The company will be his, and you'll have nothing left to provide for those children. Through the window, Marcus watched Sophia holding Noah's tiny hand as machines monitored his recovery. She hadn't eaten since yesterday, refusing to leave her brother's side. 5 minutes, Marcus, Patricia pressed. That's all you need. Show your face, cast your vote, prove you're still committed to the company. The custody hearing would last hours. Surely he could make a brief appearance at the board meeting and return before. I'll be there in 10 minutes, Marcus heard himself say. He approached Sophia carefully. Sweetheart, I need to step out for just a few minutes. A work emergency. Sophia's head snapped up, her eyes immediately guarded. You're leaving? Just for a moment, I'll be back before... Before what? Sophia's voice grew small. Before they take us away? No one's taking you anywhere. But even as Marcus said it, he was already moving toward the door. The boardroom was exactly as he'd left it. Mahogany table, leather chairs, the scent of ambition and betrayal. David smiled coldly as Marcus entered. Cutting it close, aren't we? The vote was swift and brutal. David's allies had spent weeks building their case. Marcus's recent absences, the failed London merger, the media circus, everything weaponized against him. All in favor of removing Marcus Blackstone as CEO? David's voice carried false regret. Hands rose around the table. Not enough to constitute a majority, but close. Too close. Marcus's phone buzzed urgently. Ms. Rodriguez calling. From the hospital. Mr. Blackstone, where are you? The custody hearing has begun. The judge is asking for your whereabouts. Marcus's blood turned to ice. He'd been gone 40 minutes. I'm coming now. Sir, your absence is being interpreted as lack of commitment to guardianship. The Harrison family's attorney is using this as evidence that business takes priority over the children. The Harrison family. Marcus's mind reeled. David had found relatives, distant cousins willing to challenge custody for the right price. Marcus bolted from the boardroom, ignoring David's satisfied smile. In the elevator, Patricia called with the final blow. The judge postponed the hearing until tomorrow. She's ordered a full investigation into your priorities and commitment level. Marcus burst into Noah's hospital room to find it empty except for a security guard. The children have been placed in emergency foster care pending tomorrow's hearing, the guard explained. Social services felt it was necessary given the circumstances. Marcus sank into the chair where Sophia had been sitting, her worn, stuffed rabbit forgotten on the cushion. On the bedside table, she'd left a drawing, a stick figure man walking, away from two smaller figures. At the bottom, in careful 7-year-old handwriting, "Goodbye, Marcus. Thank you for trying." For the first time in his adult life, Marcus Blackstone put his head in his hands and wept. He'd chosen the boardroom over the courtroom, and in doing so had become exactly what Sophia feared most. Another person who left when it mattered. Marcus sat in his empty penthouse, Noah's forgotten bottle still on the counter, Sophia's drawings scattered across his desk like accusations. His phone had gone silent. Even his allies had abandoned him after news of the custody loss spread. Soft knock at his door revealed the last person he expected, Elena carrying a manila envelope. "Mr. Blackstone, I found something you need to see." Her hands trembled as she handed him the envelope. "I've been cleaning Mr. Sterling's office for 3 years. Yesterday I saw papers that made no sense until now." Marcus opened the envelope to find photocopied documents that made his blood freeze. Bank transfers to the Harrison family, payments to hospital staff for information services. Most damning of all, emails between David and a private investigator dated 2 weeks before Marcus even met Sophia and Noah. Find leverage on Blackstone. Personal angle preferred. Will pay premium for actionable intelligence. The final email was time-stamped the morning after Marcus's first hospital visit. Subject acquired. Children from homeless situation. Recommend media exploitation and custody challenge through discovered relatives. Marcus's hands shook as the full scope of David's manipulation became clear. His partner hadn't simply capitalized on an opportunity. He'd orchestrated the entire downfall from the moment Marcus showed compassion. "There's more," Elena whispered, pulling out a recording device. From yesterday's board meeting. David's voice crackled through the speaker, speaking to someone after Marcus left. Phase 1 complete. Blackwood's reputation is destroyed, the children are in state custody, and the board is finally seeing his true weakness. By tomorrow, I'll have controlling interest in the company and he'll have nothing. "What about the kids?" an unfamiliar voice asked. David's laugh was cold as winter. "Tragic casualties of war. They served their purpose. The Harrison family will take custody tomorrow. They're quite grateful for my financial assistance, and Marcus will be too broken to rebuild." Marcus looked up at Elena, whose eyes blazed with righteous fury. "He used those babies as weapons," she said fiercely. "He never cared about the company. He wanted to destroy you." The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. David's 15-year resentment had finally found the perfect target. Not Marcus's business empire, but his newfound capacity for love. Marcus's phone rang. Patricia's voice was strained. "Marcus, there's something else." The Harrison family attorney called. "They're willing to drop the custody case." "What's the catch?" "You sign over your controlling shares in Blackwood Industries to David tonight. They claim it's about providing financial stability for the children, but Marcus, this is extortion." Through his floor-to-ceiling windows, Marcus watched. The city lights twinkle like fallen stars. David had played a masterful game. Isolate Marcus from his power base, turn his love for the children into weakness, then offer a devil's bargain. Give up everything he'd built for everything that mattered. "There's one more thing," Elena said softly. "Miss Sophia, she left this." Elena handed him a small folded paper. Inside, Sophia had drawn a picture of Marcus holding both children, with words carefully printed below. "You didn't leave us. They took us. We still love you. Sophia and Noah." Marcus stared at the drawing, feeling something crystallize inside his chest. David had made one crucial miscalculation. He'd assumed Marcus would choose his empire over his heart. But the man who'd found Sophia begging for scraps wasn't the same person who'd built Blackwood Industries. That Marcus had valued power above all else. This Marcus had learned what truly mattered. Tomorrow's custody hearing wouldn't just determine the children's fate, It would be the final battle for Marcus's soul. The courthouse steps buzzed with reporters as Marcus arrived at 8 a.m., Elena beside him carrying a briefcase full of evidence. David Sterling emerged from a black sedan, flanked by the Harrison family and their high-powered attorney. "Marcus," David called out with false warmth. "Still time to reconsider our generous offer. Sign the papers and this all ends quietly." Marcus met his former partner's gaze steadily. "See you inside." Judge Martinez called the courtroom to order as Marcus took his seat, painfully aware of the empty space where Sophia and Noah should have been. The Harrison family, distant cousins who'd never met the children, sat rigidly in their Sunday best. Their attorney, Williams, opened with devastating efficiency. "Your Honor, Mr. Blackstone's own actions demonstrate his unfitness as a guardian. Yesterday, during a medical emergency involving the infant, he abandoned both children to attend a business meeting." Marcus watched David in the gallery, his satisfied smile barely concealed. "Furthermore," Williams continued, "Mr. Blackstone's recent business failures suggest an unstable financial future. The Harrison family offers traditional stability. Married, 15 years, 3 successful children, established community ties." When called to testify, Marcus abandoned his lawyer's careful script. "Your Honor, everything Mr. Williams said is true. I did leave the hospital yesterday. I made a terrible choice, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life." His attorney winced, but Marcus continued. "But I'd like to tell you about another choice I made 15 years ago. I chose money over love. I chose ambition over family. I built an empire but lost my soul." Marcus turned to look at David. "3 weeks ago, a little girl named Sophia saved me from that emptiness. She and her baby brother didn't just need rescue. They rescued me." "Mr. Blackstone," Judge Martinez interrupted gently, "the court appreciates your emotional attachment, but we must consider practical stability." "Then consider this." Marcus nodded to Elena, who stood and handed evidence folders to the bailiff. "David Sterling, my business partner, orchestrated this entire custody challenge to destroy me personally and professionally." The courtroom erupted as Elena's evidence was distributed. Bank records, emails, recorded conversations, proof of David's manipulation laid bare. "He paid the Harrison family to file for custody," Marcus continued, his voice gaining strength. "He bribed hospital staff for information. He sabotaged business deals to make me appear unstable. He used 2 innocent children as weapons in a personal vendetta." David shot to his feet. "This is preposterous." "Is it?" Marcus played Elena's recording on the courtroom speakers. David's own voice filled the room. "Tragic casualties of war. They served their purpose." The Harrison family's attorney went pale as their clients realized they'd been pawns in David's game. "Your Honor," Marcus said quietly, "I'm not a perfect father. I'm learning every day. But these children will never doubt that they come first in my life because I'm prepared to give up everything else to prove it." Marcus pulled a document from his jacket, his signed resignation as CEO of Blackwood Industries. "I hereby relinquish all control of my company. Let David have it. My only priority is being the father Sophia and Noah deserve." Judge Martinez studied the evidence for long minutes before speaking. "Mr. Sterling, you will remain for questioning by court officers. Harrison family, your petition is dismissed with prejudice." She turned to Marcus. "Mr. Blackstone, your willingness to sacrifice your business empire demonstrates remarkable commitment. However, given yesterday's lapse in judgment, custody will be restored with mandatory parenting classes and monthly social services check-ins." The gavel fell like thunder. Marcus had won his children but lost everything else. As he left the courthouse, Elena squeezed his arm. "They're bringing the children now." Marcus saw Sophia running toward him, Noah bouncing in a social worker's arms. In that moment, he realized David had been wrong about one thing. Marcus Blackstone hadn't lost everything. He'd finally won what mattered most. 6 weeks after the custody hearing, Marcus Blackstone's life looked nothing like it had before. The penthouse was gone, sold to pay legal fees. Their new home was a modest 3-bedroom house in Queen Anne, with a small yard where Sophia could play and Noah could crawl safely on grass. Marcus had kept his word about sacrificing everything. David now controlled Blackstone Industries, systematically dismantling everything Marcus had built. Former colleagues crossed the street to avoid him. Investment opportunities dried up. The business world had written off Marcus Blackstone as a cautionary tale. But watching Noah take his first wobbling steps across their living room floor, Marcus felt richer than he'd ever been. He did it. Marcus, look. Sophia clapped as Noah stumbled into Marcus's waiting arms. I saw, sweetheart, he's getting so strong. Marcus had thrown himself into fatherhood with the same intensity he'd once applied to hostile takeovers. Parenting classes, pediatric first aid certification, endless research on child development. He'd traded corporate reports for bedtime, stories, board meetings for playground visits. The doorbell rang, interrupting their celebration. Through the window, Marcus spotted a familiar black sedan. Patricia Wells stood on his doorstep, looking uncomfortable. Behind her, 2 men in expensive suits waited by the car. Marcus, we need to talk. May I come in? Sophia immediately moved closer to Marcus, her protective instincts still sharp. Who are they? Just some people from my old work, Marcus said, gently. Why don't you show Noah his new toy while I talk to them? In the kitchen, Patricia got straight to the point. David's destroyed the company. Stock prices have collapsed, major clients are fleeing, and the board finally sees what he really is. Marcus poured coffee, unmoved. That's unfortunate. Marcus, they want you back. Full control chairman and CEO with a compensation package worth more than your original stake. Patricia slid a contract across the table. You could rebuild everything you lost. Marcus glanced at the figures. Enough money to buy back his penthouse, restore his status, give Sophia and Noah every advantage wealth could provide. There's one condition, Patricia continued carefully. The position requires extensive travel, 18-hour days, complete dedication. The board needs to know you're fully committed to business again. What about the children? Elena could help, or boarding school when they're older. Marcus, this is your chance to reclaim everything. From the living room came the sound of Sophia reading to Noah, her 7-year-old voice carefully pronouncing each word. She'd been doing that every night since they moved, determined to help her brother learn. Marcus? Patricia pressed. This offer won't last long. Marcus looked at the contract again, seeing numbers that represented his former life. Power, prestige, the respect of his peers. Everything he'd worked 15 years to achieve. Then he heard Noah giggle at something in Sophia's story. Tell the board I'm honored by their offer, Marcus said, pushing the contract back across the table. And I decline. My children need their father more than I need a company. Patricia stared at him in disbelief. Marcus, you're walking away from hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm walking toward something more valuable. After they left, Marcus found Sophia and Noah on the couch, the little boy asleep against his sister's shoulder. She looked up at Marcus with worried eyes. Are you going back to your important work? Marcus sat beside them, carefully taking Noah so Sophia could stretch. No, sweetheart. This is my important work now. For the first time since the custody battle, Sophia smiled without reservation. Good. We're better at being a family than you are at being a businessman anyway. Marcus laughed, a sound that had become more frequent in their small house than it ever was in his corporate empire. You're absolutely right. 3 months had passed since Marcus walked away from his corporate resurrection. Their small house in Queen Anne had become a sanctuary of laughter, finger paintings on the refrigerator, and toys scattered across hardwood floors that once gleamed in sterile perfection. Marcus stood at the kitchen window, watching Sophia push Noah on the swing set he'd assembled in their backyard. His hands, once soft from executive privilege, now bore small calluses from weekend home repairs and midnight crib assemblies. Mr. Blackstone? Elena appeared in the doorway holding an envelope. This came for you. The return address made his stomach clench. Blackwood Industries. Inside, a brief note from the company's bankruptcy attorney. David's mismanagement had finally collapsed. The empire Marcus spent 15 years building. Hundreds of employees laid off, pension funds depleted, the Blackwood name synonymous with corporate failure. Marcus should have felt devastated. Instead, watching 9-month-old Noah squeal with delight as Sophia spun him gently, he felt only a strange sense of peace. His phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. David Sterling arrested for embezzlement. FBI found millions hidden in offshore accounts. Your vindication is complete. Vindication. The word felt hollow. Marcus had been proven right about David's character. But at what cost? Good people had lost their jobs because he'd walked away when the company needed leadership. Marcus, Sophia called from the yard. Come push Noah higher. He folded the letter and stepped outside. These days, his schedule revolved around nap time, grocery runs, and pediatric appointments. His morning alarm was Noah babbling in his crib, not stock market reports. How high can he go? Marcus asked, taking over the swing. Not too high, Sophia said seriously. He's still little, but he likes when you make airplane sounds. Marcus obliged, making exaggerated whooshing noises that sent Noah into fits of giggles. 6 months ago, he'd been negotiating million-dollar deals. Now his most important skill was entertaining a baby. Sophia, he said carefully, do you ever miss our old house, the big rooms, all those toys? She considered this with 7-year-old solemnity. Sometimes I miss the big bathtub, but this house feels more like home. Why? Because you're always here. In the big house, you were always working or talking on your phone. Here, you help me with homework and make funny faces at Noah. That evening, as Marcus gave Noah his bath, a routine he'd once paid others to handle, he reflected on the strange mathematics of loss and gain. David had taken his money, his company, his reputation. In return, Marcus had gained something he'd never known he was missing. Purpose beyond profit. Love without conditions. A family built not on blood or obligation, but on choice and commitment. After putting Noah down, Marcus found Sophia at the kitchen table working intently on a school project. What are you making? Family tree for show and tell. She held up her poster board, decorated with photos and drawings. Teacher says we should include everyone important to us. At the top sat a photo of Marcus with both children, taken at Noah's first birthday party. Below it, careful handwriting, my family, Sophia Blackstone, Noah Blackstone, and Papa Marcus. Papa Marcus, not daddy or father, but something uniquely theirs. Is it okay I called you Papa Marcus? Sophia asked, suddenly uncertain. I know you're not my real dad, but Marcus knelt beside her chair, his throat tight with emotion. Sophia, family isn't about blood. It's about choosing to love someone every single day, and every day I choose you and Noah. She threw her arms around his neck. We choose you too. Later, alone in his modest bedroom, Marcus looked at the family photo on his nightstand. A year ago, he'd slept in a king-sized bed surrounded by awards and accolades. Now he slept in a full-size bed under drawings Sophia had made, listening for Noah's occasional midnight stirrings. He'd lost his empire, but found his kingdom. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, bills to pay, college funds to rebuild, the slow work of starting over. But tonight, Marcus Blackstone knew he was exactly where he belonged. 18 months after that night at the Meridian Club, Marcus Blackstone stood at the back of Jefferson Elementary's multi-purpose room, his heart hammering as he watched 8-year-old Sophia arrange her display for the school's family heritage showcase. Her poster board was a masterpiece of childhood artistry, photos, drawings, and carefully written stories about their unconventional family. But it was the centerpiece that took Marcus's breath away, a large drawing of 3 figures under a rainbow, with bold letters spelling, the Blackstone family. Are you Papa Marcus? A curious voice beside him belonged to another father, studying Sophia's display. My daughter Madison talks about you all the time. She says Sophia's papa used to be super rich but gave it all up to be a dad. Marcus smiled, watching Sophia explain her project to a gathering crowd of classmates and parents. Something like that. 14-month-old Noah squirmed in Marcus's arms, babbling happily as he spotted his sister across the room. The transformation in both children was miraculous. Noah had grown from a malnourished infant into a robust toddler with bright eyes and infectious laughter. Sophia had blossomed from a guarded, fearful child into a confident little girl who raised her hand eagerly in class and made friends easily. But perhaps the most profound transformation was in Marcus himself. Gone was the man who measured success in quarterly profits and board approvals. The new Marcus wore khakis instead of $1,000 suits, drove a sensible Honda instead of a Bentley, and found genuine joy in finger painting and bedtime stories. His modest consulting business, helping small companies with ethical growth strategies, provided enough income for their comfortable life. The work was fulfilling in ways his corporate empire never was, but his real career was fatherhood. "Papa Marcus," Sophia spotted him and waved excitedly. "Come see what Mrs. Chen said about my project." As Marcus approached with Noah, the teacher beamed. "Sophia's presentation is remarkable. She's written such a beautiful story about how families are created by love, not just blood." Sophia stood proudly beside her display, pointing to different sections. "This is when Papa Marcus found us at the restaurant. I was so scared, but he bought us food and took Noah to the hospital." Marcus remembered that terrified little girl, clutching her baby brother and expecting another adult to disappoint her. Now she stood confident and radiant, secure in the knowledge that she was loved unconditionally. "And this," Sophia continued, pointing to a photo of their first Christmas morning, "is when we became a real family. Papa Marcus taught me how to make pancakes and Noah took his first steps." Mrs. Chen smiled warmly. "What makes your family special, Sophia?" Without hesitation, Sophia replied, "Papa Marcus chose us. Even when it was hard and people said mean things, he never gave up on us. He says family isn't about who you're born to. It's about who chooses to love you every day." Marcus felt tears prick his eyes as other parents nodded approvingly. This 8-year-old had articulated what he'd spent 43 years learning to understand. After the presentation, as they walked to the parking lot, Sophia slipped her hand into Marcus's free one while he carried Noah. "Papa Marcus, are you happy we found you?" Marcus stopped walking, kneeling to meet her eyes while Noah babbled contentedly on his hip. "Sophia, finding you and Noah was the best thing that ever happened to me. You didn't just change my life, you saved it." "How? Did we save you?" she asked with genuine curiosity. Marcus considered his words carefully. "Before you, I thought success meant having lots of money and important titles. I was lonely and empty inside, but I didn't know it. You taught me that real success means loving someone more than yourself. You made me want to be the kind of man who deserves your trust." Sophia nodded solemnly, then brightened. "Well, you're stuck with us forever now. We're Blackstones." "Forever," Marcus agreed, his voice thick with emotion. That evening, as Marcus tucked Sophia into bed, she handed him a wrapped package. "What's this?" "Open it." Inside was a hand-painted picture frame containing the family photo from the Heritage Showcase, along with a certificate she'd made herself. World's Best Papa Marcus Award, decorated with stars and hearts. "I wanted you to have something special," she said shyly, "because you gave up everything important for us." Marcus sat on the edge of her bed, Noah sleeping peacefully in his arms. "Sophia, I need you to understand something. I didn't give up everything important. I gave up everything that wasn't important to find everything that was." He looked at his children, this brave little girl who'd protected her brother with nothing but courage, and the baby who'd grown strong and healthy through love and care. "You are my everything important." As he turned off Sophia's light, she called softly, "Papa Marcus?" Do you think Mama would be happy that we found you? Marcus paused in the doorway. They rarely spoke of the woman whose addiction had led to their abandonment, but when they did, he tried to answer with compassion rather than judgment. I think your mama loved you very much, sweetheart. And I think she'd be glad you found someone who could love you the way you deserve. Later, after Noah was settled in his crib, Marcus stood in their small living room, looking at the photos covering every surface: birthday parties, first steps, bedtime stories, ordinary moments that had become extraordinary memories. A year and a half ago, he'd been Marcus Blackwood, ruthless CEO with a penthouse and an empty heart. Tonight, he was Papa Marcus Blackstone, living in a modest house filled with laughter, crayon masterpieces, and the kind of wealth that couldn't be measured in dollars. David Sterling's betrayal had destroyed his company but revealed his character. The media had mocked his choices but missed their meaning. The business world had written him off but failed to see his greatest achievement. Marcus Blackstone had learned the most important lesson of all, that the family you choose can heal the family you lost, that love freely given is more powerful than blood, and that sometimes losing everything is the only way to find what truly matters. In saving Sophia and Noah, he had finally saved himself.